It's fine, Arthur muttered to himself, shivering. I'll just go back to the apartment. Clara will be there. She's probably waiting for me to apologize. She's a softie. She'll let me in, give me a warm meal, and we'll figure out how to unglitch this trust fund situation. He was still stuck in his delusional phase, thinking he could just reset 40 years of betrayal with a fake apology. He finally reached our old apartment building at 3 a.m. He was exhausted, soaked, and looking like a total flop. He took the elevator up to the 4th floor and reached for his keys. He slid the key into the deadbolt. Clink. It didn't turn. He tried again, forcing it. Nothing. What the hell? He looked at the door. There was a small professional sticker over the keyhole that read, "Property vacated. Locks secured by Clara's legal team." Arthur's heart did a backflip of pure terror. He started pounding on the door. "Clara, open up. It's me. It was all a prank, okay? The divorce papers, I didn't mean it. Clara." Silence. The kind of silence that feels heavy. A neighbor, Mrs. Gable, cracked her door open, looking pressed. "Keep it down, Arthur. Clara's been gone since Tuesday. She had a whole crew of professional movers here. They liquidated everything, sold the furniture, packed the memories, and cleared the place out in 4 hours. She said the lease was up, and she wasn't renewing it." "Where did she go?" Arthur gasped, his voice cracking. "She didn't say," Mrs. Gable shrugged. "But she looked glowed up and happy. She left a small box for you with the building manager." Arthur ran downstairs to the lobby. The night manager handed him a small, plain cardboard box. Arthur tore it open, hoping for a check or a note saying, "I forgive you." Instead, inside the box was his old fake gold watch he used for clout. A single copy of the divorce papers he'd signed, now stamped officially finalized. A bill for the last 40 years of management services Clara had provided for his failing life, totaling exactly $1 million. At the bottom was a small sticky note, in Clara's perfect handwriting. "You wanted to be that guy, Arthur. Well, that guy doesn't need a wife, a home, or my help. You're finally independent. Enjoy the streets. They're free." He was officially homeless and zeroed out. He tried to call his lawyer, but the lawyer's assistant told him they were now representing Clara, and any further contact would be considered harassment. Clara hadn't just left him, she had erased his entire existence from her life. She was a ghost, and he was haunted by the reality that he was now a nobody in a world that only respects the grind. He looked at the fake gold watch in the box. It wasn't even ticking. Just like his life, it was a fraud. Every morning, Arthur would scroll through social media on his cracked phone screen, hoping to find some sign of Clara's struggle. He wanted to see her failing, wanting to believe she couldn't survive without him. But instead, he got hit with a viral notification that felt like a flashbang to the face. The headline read, "The Silent CEO. Clara Sterling launches The Sanctuary, a multi-million-dollar real estate venture." There was a photo of Clara. She wasn't wearing that old mustard yellow coat anymore. She was rocking a custom-tailored emerald green power suit, standing in front of a glass skyscraper. She looked immaculate. Her skin was glowing, her hair was perfect, and that smile, it wasn't a good wife smile. It was a boss move smile. Arthur stared at the screen, his jaw hitting the floor. The Sterling construction site? That was my inheritance. How is she building a skyscraper on my land? He was still clueless. See, while Arthur was busy flexing for his fake friends, Clara had used the trust fund assets to settle all the old debts and lawsuits Arthur's father had left behind. Because she was the one who handled the legal paperwork for 40 years, she knew the cheat codes of the industry. She had quietly bought up the surrounding lots, using the trust's capital, turning a dead construction site into the most valuable piece of dirt in the city. She hadn't just taken the money. She had multiplied it while Arthur was sleeping. Driven by a mix of desperation and audacity, Arthur decided to crash her launch party. He put on his only remaining clean shirt, tried to hide the stains on his pants, and hopped on a bus to the city center. He thought if he could just get 5 minutes with her, he could gaslight her into giving him a consultant role. After all, it was his family legacy, right? He reached the entrance of the towering glass building. The security was next level. Guards in black suits with earpieces were checking invites. "I'm Arthur Sterling," he said, trying to act alpha. "I'm the founder's former partner. I'm here to see Clara." The guard looked at his clipboard, then looked at Arthur's beat-up shoes. He let out a dry laugh. "Sir, you're on the permanent blacklist. My instructions are very specific. If a man named Arthur shows up, looking like a flopped extra from a 90s movie, I'm to hand him this." The guard handed Arthur a small, high-quality envelope. Inside was a single business card. It just said, block quote, P. Strong, Clara Sterling, CEO of the Sanctuary. Silence is the loudest way to say goodbye. Obsend. In the back of the card, Clara had handwritten, "I hired your old car wash to detail my new fleet of company SUVs. Make sure you don't miss the spots on the rims, Arthur. I expect premium SUV service." P. Arthur looked up and saw Clara through the massive glass windows of the lobby. She was raising a glass of champagne, surrounded by investors and city officials. She looked at him for exactly 1 second. No anger, no pity, just pure indifference. Then she turned away and went back to her conversation. Arthur was ghosted in person. He realized then that he wasn't even a villain in her story anymore. He was just a background character she had already edited out. He stood on the sidewalk, a nobody, in front of the empire his ride or die had built from the ashes of his betrayal. He wasn't just broke. He was obsolete. Let's set the scene. 3 months have passed since Arthur was evicted from his own delusions. He's currently living in a motel that's so budget it doesn't even have a functioning vending machine. He's working a shift at the local car wash, the same one where he used to bring his Ferrari to flex for the locals. Talk about a downfall arc that's literally in the dirt. Every morning, Arthur wakes up to the smell of damp carpets and cheap coffee. He scrolls through his cracked phone screen, his thumb shaking as he hits the Explore tab on Instagram. He's looking for a sign of Clara failing. He's preying on her downfall, hoping to see a headline about her losing the money or struggling to pay the bills. But instead, he gets hit with a viral notification that feels like a literal flashbang to his pride. The headline, splashed across every major business site, reads, "From silent wife to real estate mogul, Clara Sterling launches The Sanctuary, a $500 million urban renewal project." There's a high-res photo of Clara. She's standing in the middle of a construction site, the very same Sterling construction site that Arthur thought was his ticket to freedom. But it doesn't look like a graveyard of broken dreams anymore. It's a hive of activity, with massive cranes, hundreds of workers, and a foundation that's being poured for a 60-story glass skyscraper. Clara is rocking a custom-tailored emerald green power suit. Her hair is a perfect silver bob. Her glasses are designer, and she's holding a golden shovel like she's about to bury the entire concept of average. She looks immaculate. She looks untouchable. She looks like she's been a CEO her entire life and was just waiting for the dead weight, aka Arthur, to be cut loose. Arthur's jaw didn't just drop. It practically hit the greasy motel floor. "How?" he screamed at the screen, his voice cracking like a cheap speaker. "That was my land, my father's legacy. How is she the one building the skyscraper? See, Arthur was so busy clout chasing with his fake friends and leasing Ferraris he couldn't afford, that he never actually looked at the legal structure of Sterling Construction. He thought he inherited the land because of his DNA. He didn't realize that for 40 years, Clara had been the one quietly settling the back taxes, negotiating with the city council, and keeping the creditors from liquidating the whole property. She hadn't just taken the money from the trust, she had leveraged it. She used the $1 million seed money to clear the remaining liens on the property, then pitched a massive eco-friendly housing project to a group of international investors who were simping for her business plan. Within 8 weeks, she had turned a dead inheritance into a $500 million joint venture. Arthur was clueless. He was a level 1 crook trying to understand a level 100 boss move. Driven by a mix of pure desperation and a massive case of audacity, Arthur decided he was going to crash the launch party. He figured if he could just get into the room, he could gaslight Clara into giving him a seat at the table. After all, his name was on the building, right? He spent 2 hours scrubbing the grease from under his fingernails, put on his only remaining clean shirt, and hopped on a city bus. He reached the entrance of the towering glass lobby. The security was next level. Guys in black suits with earpieces were checking QR codes on phones. The guest list was a who's who of the city's elite. Mayors, tech billionaires, and socialites. "I'm Arthur Sterling," he said, trying to puff out his chest and channel some of that old alpha energy. "I'm the legacy founder. I'm here to see the CEO. Clara and I go way back." The lead guard looked at his clipboard, then slowly looked Arthur up and down. He saw the stained collar, the frayed cuffs, and the shoes that were clearly cooked. The guard let out a dry, disrespectful laugh. "Mr. Sterling? Oh, we've been expecting you," the guard said, his voice dripping with sarcasm. "The CEO gave us very specific instructions if a man matching your description showed up looking like a flopped extra from a low-budget movie. She said to hand you this." The guard reached into his jacket and pulled out a high-quality, velvet-textured envelope. Arthur's heart soared for a second. This is it, he thought. She's giving me a check. She's giving me a way back in. He tore the envelope open. Inside was a single, sleek black business card. It didn't have a phone number. It didn't have an address. It just said, "Clara Sterling, founder and CEO of the Sanctuary. Your freedom looks a lot like my success." On the back of the card, Clara had handwritten a note in her elegant, sharp script. "Arthur, I just signed a contract with the local municipal services. Your car wash is now the official provider for our construction fleet's cleaning needs. Don't forget to scrub the wheels on the cement trucks, honey. I expect premium results for the price I'm paying." Arthur looked up, and for a split second his eyes met Clara's through the massive floor-to-ceiling glass windows of the VIP lounge. She was standing at the edge of the balcony, raising a glass of $500 a bottle champagne to a crowd of cheering investors. She looked at him for exactly 1 second. There was no anger in her eyes, no hatred, no desire for a fight. It was just pure, cold indifference. She looked at him the way you look at a fly on a window, something that exists but doesn't matter. Then she turned her back on him and walked deeper into the party, her emerald suit shimmering under the chandeliers. Arthur stood on the sidewalk, a literal nobody, standing in front of the empire his ride-or-die had built from the ashes of his ego. He wasn't just broke, he was deleted. He realized then that Clara hadn't just won the game. She had uninstalled him from the server entirely. He clutched the black business card in his hand, the rain starting to fall on his dirty shirt. He had wanted to be that guy. Well, he was finally independent. He was independent of money, independent of a home, and independent of the only person who had ever actually believed in him. The grind was just beginning for Clara. For Arthur? The strong game over screen was flashing in high definition.